Let's start off with the rookie quarterbacks with Caleb Williams, who had a pretty solid debut, had the beautiful pass going to his right to Cole Kmet down the sideline where he looked like Patrick Mahomes, looked like Josh Allen. Overall, he goes 4 for 7 for 95 passing yards, 13 rushing yards. Matthew, was there anything in that performance that made you adjust your opinion of Caleb Williams?
No, but I was always already high on him anyway. I mean, I think the guy's the real deal, and I think, yeah, to your point, like he made some whatever, 4 for 7, 95 yards. You're playing against vanilla defenses. You're not it's all small sample size. But my point is that if you had confidence in Caleb Williams prior to this game, I think you feel pretty good about that confidence. If you didn't have confidence on it, I think there were some throws to your point that you just sort of said like, okay, that's a real NFL throw. That's the kind of throw an NFL quarterback makes. And so, yeah, I mean, I was, listen, I've had Caleb Williams below Jayden Daniels in terms of rookie quarterbacks. We're going to get to future Hall of Famer and multiple Super Bowl champion Jayden Daniels in a minute. But ultimately, to me, the more interesting part about Caleb Williams' debut wasn't Caleb Williams, but was the usage of the Bears around him. I don't know, Lawrence, if you had any other thoughts about Caleb.
Yeah, nah. So I've got Caleb Williams ranked as my 10th best quarterback in fantasy this season. Had he come out here and went 4 for 7 for 31 yards and an interception, I wouldn't have changed off that. Whether he did, I guess, quote unquote good or quote unquote bad. You never want to let the small sample sizes that these young quarterbacks play affect the bigger picture. And I think that's the biggest takeaway we should all have. However, when they do come out and they do look as good as advertised, well, now you're feeling good. Now you know they're capable. Now you know they can get the ball. And I will say this quickly about Caleb Williams. We saw that run that he had. If he wanted to, he could run for 600 yards. So, depending on how much he integrates the rushing game here as a rookie, that could be an X factor in how he does in fantasy because he has that in his skill set as well.
Yeah, I think the thing with preseason largely is it's kind of like NBA Summer League where it doesn't matter so much if you're good because the expectation is you're going to be good. It's a big red flag if you're bad. So I don't think we can buy too much into players looking great. It's just ticking a box along the way. But I think the biggest thing to read into preseason, though, is just usage and not so much the stats that players compile. It's just how much are they on the field? What kind of snaps are they getting? And a part of that, Matthew, that surfaced in the Chicago game is that it seems like Rome Odunze is going to be clearly wide receiver 3 in 2 wide receiver sets. It was Keenan Allen out there with DJ Moore and not Odunze. Does this lower your opinion of Odunze, or do you think that was already baked into his ADP?
I think it lowers it a little bit. I think there's two things here. Look, I mean, ultimately, DJ Moore and Keenan Allen were still going to get drafted, right? And so I think, by the way, to me, I think you up Keenan Allen a little bit because basically what happened is when they went 3 wide receivers, Keenan Allen played the slot. And when they went to 2, it was Keenan Allen and DJ Moore or Rome Odunze. Allen didn't really come off the field. And so I think a lot of people, again, it's one preseason game. It's small sample size, but it's all we have to work off right now. I think most people sort of thought DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, then Rome Odunze, and I would flip Keenan Allen and DJ Moore if I'm drafting today. Again, as the preseason goes on, we'll get more information. But to your point, look, they used both tight ends. Both Everett and Cole Kmet were out there quite a bit, and we'll talk about them in a second. You saw DeAndre Swift catch his pass. Like, he's going to be involved in the passing game. You've got Keenan Allen and DJ Moore. I worry that Rome Odunze is going to be, this is the easy comparison, but sometimes the easy comparison is the right one, which is that I'm worried it's going to be JSN all over again, which is, by the way, also Shane Waldron, the offense coordinator of the Bears, who formerly was with the Seattle Seahawks. The fact is that last year we were like, Jackson Smith and Jigba is the best wide receiver in this class. But unfortunately, you've got Lockett and DK Metcalf ahead of him, and just JSN never got, and he hurt a little bit in the preseason, whatever. But the fact is that the fantasy production last year did not match the talent of JSN. And I worry because there are so many mouths to feed that the same case may be happening with Rome Odunze. And just, I think as you're like, love him in Dynasty, no issue with him in best ball. But I think if you were looking for season-long redraft, you have to lower Odunze or just understand his chance may not come, and if it does come, it's probably not going to come until the second part of the season, or if there's an injury to Keenan Allen and DJ Moore.
Yeah, just to clarify that, Matthew. So you would take still DJ Moore is still the number one guy in Chicago. It's just that based on preseason, that Allen, in terms of relative to ADP, he gets the bigger bump.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, listen, there's more risk baked into Keenan Allen, obviously, because of his age, because of injury history, and DJ Moore is the more explosive player. But I think they're, again, if you take health out of it, I think their production is going to be I think they're going to be a lot closer, especially in full PPR leagues, because Allen's going to play the slot, and I just think he's going to get peppered with targets. So that's all I'm saying is that it seems like in terms of playing time pecking order, Allen's not coming off the field. At least, again, this is all small sample size. We're talking whatever. We're not talking a ton of snaps here.
Keenan Allen's coming off a 1,200-yard season,
right.
13 games. Like, him and DJ Moore basically had the same numbers last year. This is like 1A, 1B. And like you said, Matthew, you take the health issues out, because Keenan Allen did miss 3 or 4 games, but he still had 1,200 yards. That's a career year on a per game basis. So you mentioned playing the slot. It's closer than what people think. I think it was always going to be tough for Rome to get in there and really do numbers as a rookie, unless one of the aforementioned DJ Moore or Keenan Allen goes down.
Yep. All right, let's move on.
The other thing, by the way, real quickly on the other thing is that this is, I did my 100 facts column, which is up on rotoworld.com right now, 100% free. Please go check it out. 100 facts you need to know before you draft. It's one of my favorite columns I write every year. This year's edition came out really well. I'm really happy with how this one's came out. But Lawrence, to your point, one fact that I didn't put in that I had, and I just whatever, you only have 100 facts to play with, so you got to pick and choose. But the fact of the matter is that DJ Moore had that unbelievable Thursday night game against my Commanders, where he just lit us up, where Ron Rivera decided to not guard him, and just leave him in single coverage, on and on. Anyway, whatever. Don't get me started on Ron Rivera's defense. But the fact of the matter is DJ Moore lit us up for 3 touchdowns, and I think he had, off the top of my head, he had 1,000 yards in that game. So I think he had 400 receptions for 1,000 yards in that one game alone. But in all seriousness, if you take that one game out, there was a significant amount of DJ Moore's fantasy production that came from that one game. And so, again, taking that game out, which just skewed everything, DJ Moore had a good year. He didn't have as good a year as you might think just looking at the raw numbers.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the Commanders, Jayden Daniels, who will go to next, Lawrence, he goes 2 for 3 for 45 yards through the air. He has a 3-yard rushing touchdown on a designed run, which I think is instructive. What did you make of Jayden Daniels, Lawrence?
That touchdown, that 3-yard touchdown run was more important to me as a fantasy manager than that deep ball reception completion to Dynamic Brown. This is why, because that lets you know that that's what this offense is thinking when they get near that goal line. Again, let's say Jayden Daniels throws an interception on that deep ball. Well, then his stats look completely different, right? Especially only playing one drive. But I still be feeling good about him. He's my quarterback 8 this season. And we kind of, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what, too, Matthew, as you proudly wear that Washington, that looks fairly new, that Washington Commanders.
New Era. My buddies at New Era sent this to me, and it's I got to break this in.
I'll have you know, Matthew, that Drew Brees told me, I didn't have to, poach it out of him. He said he really liked Jayden Daniels. We was just talking quarterbacks a little bit, and he went out his way to talk about how much he likes Jayden Daniels. So there you go. If a Hall of Famer saying it, that's good there.
Name drop, Lawrence.
Yeah,
very good name drop. Very good, very casual name drop. Very well
talking
done.
To Drew.
But I like Drew Brees, current Hall of Famer, talking about future Hall of Famer Jayden Daniels.
It works
that's
out
the
all
kind of
good.
respect they have it for each other in Canton.
Maybe
Go
Jayden
ahead.
Daniels will go in as a New Orleans Saints as well after he signs with them in 6 years.
You know what? You bite your tongue.
Yeah, nah, but basically,
Now those are fighting words, Jay Croucher. Like, don't make me insult your children. Like, for the love of God, like you're hitting below the belt now.
yeah, way low sample size. I'm sure he'll get to play a little more the next game. And now, Matthew, I'll let you enjoy this here. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Look, you don't want to make too much of it, but is he the number one quarterback in fantasy? I think it's a conversation. No. In all seriousness, like, again, he played 11 snaps. He had 3 dropbacks as well. But that 42-yard dime to Diami Brown, I think, to your point, Lawrence, it was supposed to be a screen. Dan Quinn talked about it after the game, where it was supposed to be a screen pass, and Jayden Daniels just, sort of, quote, without permission, checked out of it and worked out. And I think, just that he has that command, regardless of whatever, and obviously the coaching staff will be more than happy and they'll live with that, right? But basically, I think the important part there is that he already has, to me, the biggest takeaway there is that Jayden Daniels already has this much of a command of Cliff Kingsbury's offense. Then in the very first preseason game, he can check out of it at the line of scrimmage and audible to Diami Brown, who knows what he's talking about, and then they complete a 42-yard bomb, right? And so, to me, that's the most interesting thing there as well. Also, I thought the other thing that's really interesting here is that he scored a rushing touchdown, which was a designed run. And this is somebody who scored a lot of rushing touchdowns at LSU over the last 2 years. But I think because of the way he's built his frame, the thought process is like, well, when they get in close, they're probably going to give it to Brian Robinson, who's as good a goal line back as there is in the NFL these days. And, oh, by the way, you've also got Austin Eckler there, a guy who, 2 of the last 3 years has scored close to 20 touchdowns a season. So I think that the fact that if we can pencil in, 5-6 rushing touchdowns for Jayden Daniels over the course of the year, which I don't think is outrageous. Again, you might be too low on him at 8.
I know.
And I'll say this.
But
I'll
it's
say
just
this.
so many quarterbacks.
There's so many quarterbacks there are
that get rushing yards and touchdowns.
I will just say this. There's a number of mobile quarterbacks that are on the list for potential ride or die candidacy this year. There's some wide receivers and running backs as well. But Jayden Daniels is on the list. I'm just telling you right now. Jayden Daniels is on the list.
Shocker. Shocker.
So's Anthony Richardson. So's, a lot of guys are on the list, but I'm excited about, I'm very excited about Jayden Daniels.
I think you should go with Kyler Murray the more I think about it, but that's a
He's
discussion
on the
for
list
another
as
day.
well.
Yeah,
Jake Croucher. Kyler Murray's also on the list as well.
Yeah, a guy who's probably
I might go back to Amon-Ra St. Brown. I might double down.
You can't do that. Don't go back to Jalen Hurts either.
But, like Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave, they're on the list. Marvin Harrison Jr. on the list. Anyway, we'll get to it. But
I'd stay away from Olave. I'd stay away from Olave. Don't want to tie myself to Derek Carr and the New Orleans offense for now.
Fair,
but he does have the talent, clearly.
I get insane talent and massive target share coming this year for Olave.
All right. Well, presumably not a ride or die candidate, Lawrence, is JJ McCarthy, though he does have a lot of upside, a lot of variance. Doesn't seem like he's going to be the week 1 starter at this point, but the door hasn't been completely closed on that. And there is a chance, of course, that he gets in at some point. He played well in the preseason. He goes 11 for 17, 188 yards through the air, 18 rushing yards, which I think is important as part of JJ's profile in fantasy. Has 2 touchdowns, beautiful touchdown down the left sideline, throws a pick as well. But what did you think of JJ's game, Lawrence?
Yeah, what you wanted to see with him was to push the ball down the field. It was good to see him recover after throwing that early interception. And like you said, getting the ball down the field, that directly ties to Justin Jefferson's game there. Now, I'll say this. You're playing behind a guy like Sam Darnold, right? This isn't Michael Penix to Kirk Cousins here. If J.J. McCarthy and Sam Darnold are playing even throughout this preseason, I don't see how you don't just start off with J.J. McCarthy when you just took him in the top half of the first round. So that'll be interesting to to see as we move forward. Also, if he does continue to play well, JJ McCarthy, maybe we will see Justin Jefferson as we go through August. We'll see him get closer to being that first receiver drafted off the board, because it's like, he does have a quarterback that should be able to get him the ball. Yeah, he gonna go through his rookie mistakes. That's a given. But if you could just get Justin Jefferson the ball and ensure that he's a 1,400, 1,500 yard receiver, then why not? So it could be effective to not only Justin Jefferson, not only JJ McCarthy, but his weapons as well in the offense.
Yeah, keep in mind that J.J. McCarthy, again, you mentioned this, right? The numbers were pretty good on McCarthy. 11 of 17, 188 yards, the 2 touchdowns. He does throw a pick, but he scrambles twice for 18 yards. Played 30 snaps, right? 19 dropbacks on those 30 snaps. I think that's interesting. And the other piece here is, like, no Justin Jefferson, no Jordan Addison, no T.J. Hawkinson. Like, again, wait till J.J. McCarthy gets to play with the actual players, and, all due respect to Jalen Naylor. But you know what I mean? Like wait till he gets to play with the starters. And so I'm with Lawrence here. I think if I'm a Vikings fan, and I'm not, but I think if I were, I'd be excited about the future with J.J. McCarthy. This will not be the first time, nor the last time, that Sam Darnold has lost his job to a promising quarterback behind him. J.J. McCarthy is going to be the starter for the Vikings. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah, I think
if I'm the Vikings front office, I think you start it sooner rather than later. But I was impressed with again, you're playing against backups. It's all small sample, but just all the caveats apply there. But
you just want to look decent. That's it.
You wanted him to. I thought J.J. McCarthy looked better than I think most people expect him to look. How's that?
I think as well, for a team that's like by the odds projected to be 4th last in their division, that Minnesota is a really fantasy-rich offensive context. Just with that O-line, with obviously Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. We don't know what's going to happen with the suspension, but expect he'll be there the majority of the season. T.J. Hawkinson comes back, and then you have a good offensive-minded head coach there in Kevin O'Connell as well.
By the way, Aaron Jones didn't play as well. Aaron Jones is a really good pass-catching running back. We saw some nice work out of Ty Chandler as well. Like, they've got weapons there, and like you can joke, but like Johnny Munt is not a zero. Johnny Munt's not a zero at tight end. No, seriously, he's not T.J. Hawkinson, but he's not like a zero. He's not. I don't think he's a zero at the tight end position. And so I agree with you that it is a fantasy-rich environment, a fantasy-friendly environment for sure.
Yeah, that might be a solid 8 out of 10 fantasy team name. Johnny Munt is not a zero. I don't mind that at all. Well, also not a zero, Bo Nix, who had a very solid debut as well. He goes 15 for 21, 125 yards through the air with a touchdown. Also had 17 yards on the ground, which is a part of Nix's game and why he is perhaps more fantasy friendly than you would expect for someone who I don't think anyone is projecting to be, a top 15, 20 quarterback in the league this year necessarily. Also has an offensive-minded head coach, naturally, with Sean Payton. Lawrence, do you think that Nix, just with that rushing upside, with Sean Payton there, is he being slept on a little bit as a fantasy option?
I don't know if he being slept on as a fantasy option, because I think in one quarterback leagues, it'll take us a while before we actually feel confident in starting him. Obviously, in Superflex, you could put him on the roster. But I will say this, same deal with J.J. McCarthy and Sam Darnold. If you got, just like a regular dude like Jarrett Stidham at quarterback, and then you're the backup. Like, if the first round rookie is playing even or better, obviously you're gonna go with him as a starter. I think Bo Nix probably has a better chance of starting week 1 than J.J. McCarthy, just based off what Sean Payton has said about him all throughout camp. He hasn't been reported to be coming along slowly or nothing like that. Then he gets out there in the field and he puts together a nice little half work of play. So I would say what you do is you hope to see him kind of work with the ones next time. How does he work with Cortland Sutton and stuff like that? Again, you just want to know that your young quarterback could get your guys the ball, and Sean Payton is going to do everything to make that happen, because this is his guy.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with Lawrence there, and I do think that there might be some sneaky fantasy production out of Denver. Sean Payton has traditionally been kind of a push the ball down the field, a fantasy friendly coach, if you will. He's aggressive with his play calling. He likes to throw it. There are the fact is they did get rid of Jerry Jeudy, but they kept Cortland Sutton. They have Marvin Mims. They have. If Greg Dulcich can stay healthy, like I think he becomes pretty interesting at tight end.
Tim Patrick as well is being. Tim Patrick got run with the starters. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a number of guys there that suddenly you're like, okay, are we expecting this to be the Kansas City Chiefs? No, but do we expect this, or the Chiefs of old? No one wants to be the Chiefs from last year, but you know what I mean. We don't expect this to be greatest show on turf or anything like that. But I do think it's going to be a better offense fantasy-wise than probably people expect. And I do think Bo Nix becomes interesting in deeper leagues, super flex, 2-quarterback leagues, or certainly dynasty leagues. I agree with Lawrence. He's not somebody that's on the 1-quarterback radar, but I like Bo Nix, and I think they like him as well. And I think his skill set is perfectly suited for the kind of offense that Sean Payton wants to run, which is one of the reasons why, obviously, they drafted him.
Yeah, I don't think Bo Nix should be 20-1 to an offensive rookie of the year either, compared to Caleb Williams, who's plus 140 range, and Jayden Daniels, who's plus 600 range. It seems like Bo Nix is going to start. I think those guys are going to be better than him, but there's enough unknowns with these quarterbacks that I think it should be a little bit closer together.
If the Broncos win, if the Broncos make the playoffs, if Bo Nix starts every game and the Broncos make the playoffs, he's right there. And I agree with you, Jay.
I think he wins it if the Broncos is making playoffs and Bo Nix. First off, if Jarrett Stidham is starting, they ain't making no playoffs.
Right, exactly. But all I'm saying, Lawrence, is just that you look at that division, and other than the Chiefs, there's not a team that really scares you. And that my point is that I think we all expect the Chiefs to win that division, but could the Broncos get a wild card spot? Absolutely. There's easily a scenario where the Raiders, the Raiders with their own quarterback issues, and the Chargers who are banged up, and we'll see how they adapt to Harbaugh's style, which sometimes takes a while to sort of, he's a very focused individual, and sometimes it takes a little while for people to adjust to his style, which is very intense. So anyway, it's not crazy to think the Broncos finish second in that division.
Yeah,
I'm not predicting it, but I don't think that's out of the range of possibilities.
No, that part is not crazy at all, to be honest. The playoff part, because you got the AFC East teams and the AFC North teams, they definitely gonna get in the way of that.
For sure.
They're plus 750 to make the playoffs, so that probably doesn't reconcile with Knicks being 20-1. If it seems like he's going to start, and if they're plus 750 to make the playoffs, I don't think he's less than a 50% chance to win if they do make it, which is what the odds say. So, I don't mind that.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and Rotoworld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto-World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.